Our next panelist is a good friend and coach and supporter of mine. So Amanda, I will let you do your introductions because you'll introduce you far better than I can.
Oh but, no, you're supposed to do that.
All I can say is, Amanda, you're amazing. Over to you.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Hi, Women in Wholesale. It is an absolute pleasure to be here. I'm Amanda from Uspire Group, and we run commercial academies, leadership academies, and coaching as well. And we're really lucky to be working with Claire and her team. She has an amazing set of women leaders in her business, actually. Before I start, I have to say thank you to the panelists this morning who all resonated with me. My background is in sales, in FMCG. I was in United Biscuits, McVitie's and KP. And Kelly, I remember my very, very first visit to a wholesale depot. I can't remember, it's somewhere in Nottingham. And I remember it being freezing cold and I had to go all the way up a ladder to count some boxes of hula hoops on top of a mixed pallet, miles up. And believe it or not, skirts were obligatory. And I was 22, something like that. And I was absolutely affronted. And as a result of my very first visit to a wholesale depot, I actually got the policy changed because I went straight back to my boss and said, I'm not wearing a skirt. I'm not wearing a skirt to do that. That's ridiculous. Anyway, and we did get the policy changed. So I'm well pleased about that. Aduke, as always, challenges I've known Aduke for 3 years, and she challenges my unconscious bias all the time. How can I make sure that I'm more diverse and inclusive? Thank you so much, Aduke. And Sarah, you know, the thing is that we are all in this amazing situation right now, which we never ever had before. There are huge opportunities, but also real problems. And Sarah, that your story, thank you so much for having the psychological safety in this group to share that honestly, I was blown away by that, and I'm glad there was a break. So what's the story, do we think, with today? We're going to run a workshop where I'm going to ask you to get involved, everybody. You will need a pen and paper later. And we're going to do some polls and some chats. Before we do that, though, I'd just like to check in to see where we all are. My session is called Reconnecting with Your Team, but I'd really like to connect with you first. So I'm going to ask Elliot to run our first poll on Women in Wholesale. There are 3 questions. So Elliot, if you could share your screen with the first question. They're anonymous, the polls, but it just gives us a feel for where people are in terms of their connection. This is the first time we've run a poll, and so just bear with us. Don't worry, Elliot. If you've got a problem, then just unmute and let me know, and I'll ask you to read out the questions. No problem. I know the questions anyway. Oh, don't worry. Forget it. Should we do it by chat? Can you find it? Can you just turn on your speaker? Don't worry. Shall we do it by chat?
Elliot, you're on mute, so we can't hear you.
Elliot.
Oh.
Angela has raised a hand to you.
Right, Amanda, you are now host. So you are now the host. So if you scroll down to the bottom, you should be able to control the poll yourself.
Okay, let's have a look. Oh yes, here we are. Right, okay, thank you. So, well done, well done. Learning, well done. Right, I'm going to launch this poll. Okay, let's see how it goes. So there are 3 questions. It's going to take you maybe a minute or so to answer these questions, and they're all about how we're feeling. So away we go. Well done, Elliot. Background music, go. Hang on a minute. Whoa, hang on. No, that's not working either. Hang on a minute. Okay, is that working? Can you see those? Can you see the questions?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, away you go, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm on my team.
First question, how are you feeling about the next few months working from home? You just need to click on one of those answers and then go down to the next one. Brilliant. And then we should get a feel for how people are feeling.
Amanda, we have to answer the 4th question. It's because it's all done together and we cannot submit unless we ask them all.
Okay, don't worry. That's fine. Don't worry. I'll do that later. Oh, yes. Some people will know the answers to those. So that's cool. Oh, that's useful. That gives me a good assessment on what we're going to do next. Don't worry. Okay, so just a couple more seconds. And then let's have a look. Great. So how are we feeling about the next few months working from home? We're talking in this workshop, we're going to be talking about connecting and reconnecting as a team. How are we feeling about the next few months? Well, we've got kind of pretty much half of us saying we're fine and we're okay. We're going to be fine in lockdown. We've done it before, so it's kind of same again. And then most weeks I'm up and down, a fair few people, 46% saying that, let me just hang on a minute. Can I show you? Oh, can you see the results? Can we see the results? Yep, I think we should be able to. Can you see the results there?
Yeah, we can see them,
Brilliant.
Amanda.
Brilliant. Okay. Yeah, so you can see the answers to the first question. We've still got 5% of people on this group. So, we've got 84 people. So there's 4 or 5 people who are feeling really, really at the end of their tether. If that is you, please feel free to get in touch. Please feel free. It's really important to know that there may be 5 or 10% of your team who are also at the end of their tether and may need some additional support, help, camaraderie, and teamwork from you. And I guess this is what this is all about. It's about how can we be at our best. The next question was about physical now, and I wrote this one down for me personally, to be honest. I am just about managing to maintain my physical health, but it's really, really important to do so. And those of you said you need to think about that in the next 4 weeks. What a great opportunity to do so, because we've got this 30-day challenge thing. So please feel free to do that. And then finally, the last question. What are your emotional energy like? Emotional energy is so important. Mostly strong, but knocked easily. It's like scratching the surface at the moment of our resilience. We're kind of bursting, and one little pin, sometimes the bubble goes. Certainly I do that, and I know I do that at home, and I'm just listening to my husband downstairs, so I'm hoping he's not listening to me. But actually, it's really important to maintain resilience, both at work and at home. And as Sarah just said, just ask for help if you need it. Please ask for help. Please share it with your bosses, share it with your team, and obviously share it with your home team, whatever that might mean. And then ignore that one about colour stars for a moment, because we are going to move on to that in a minute. But before we do, thank you. I've closed the poll. So Elliot, if you could stop sharing your screen now, that should bring it back to me. Thank you.
Yes, I can't for some reason. Are you able to control it your side?
I can't close your screen. You're viewing women at home, so. Oh, you did it.
How's that?
Brilliant. So am I back on full screen now?
Yes.
Fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. Brilliant. Excellent. Okay. So listen, what's with the diamonds? What's with the diamonds behind me? Eh? Who knows? What is that? Well, let me tell you, the story of the diamonds comes from one of our long-standing clients at Uspire. And 8 weeks ago, I had a call with the sales director and the champions, our sales leadership teams, we always call, and buying leadership teams, we always call champions. So our leaders within this business. It's in FMCG, it's in tea. And they weren't in a great place as a team. There's 30 people in this team, and they'd been working from home since March. And they've been working from home since March because their factory is attached to the sales office. And the factory, they were shielding the factory to avoid COVID cases in the factory. So they had to be working from home. They hadn't seen each other for many, many months. And they were really, to be honest, a bit down. And as leaders, they were really thinking about what do we need to do. And we decided that, you know, we've got a great plan to train in planning, selling, negotiation, all of those skills and competencies that you normally cover in an academy, because that's what Uspire do. We run commercial academies. And but yeah, there was one guy, Greg, who actually heads up food service, which, you know, we all know, certainly within this group, has had a real struggle and still continues to do as of today. And Greg said, do you know what we need to do, Amanda? We just need to bring the sparkle back into the team. We've got a huge sparkle in our team normally, and I just want it back. And so that's exactly what we did. We ran a number of sessions around reconnecting and actually around telling value stories, personal and colleague value stories that they could share internally to reconnect the team. And that's what we did. And what I'm going to do with you for the next little while is we're going to do exactly that. So it's ambitious. There's a number of polls. There's also an exercise to do. So I'm going to ask you to bear with me because it's all new. I've never done this before on virtual. And we're going to see if we can bring some sparkle back. So hence the diamonds. And some of you may have noticed that I'm wearing my special sparkly jumper, which I do recommend that you get them out, ladies and gentlemen. If you've got them, get them out and put them on for virtual, because it does make you feel better. So how are we going to bring the sparkle back into your teams? Right then, so I'm going to share my screen now, and yeah, brilliant. We've got the screen there, fantastic. Wonderful. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to share with you one of our most powerful tools for harnessing strengths for yourself as a leader, for yourself wherever you are in your career, so that you can aspire to being your best self by sharing with you color styles. Now, it looks from the way that we've done the very early poll, that was going to be later, it looks from the way that we've done the early poll that some of you are already aware of this, which is fantastic. So a bit of a recap, and then let's think about how we can share this learning and share our strengths to help others. And this is about personal management style. Our personal management style, the how you do things rather than what you do, and if anybody can remember the banana-rama, it's not what you do, it's the way that you do it. Well, it totally is. My whole life at the moment in terms of leadership and leadership coaching with commercial teams is about how you're doing things, how you're keeping connected rather than what it is you're doing, because we're all already pretty good at that, our functional skills, aren't we? So we're accredited a number of color profiling psychometrics. So this is kind of a mixture of both of them. And if it's okay with you, what I normally do is I start with a card game. If you can still see my screen, I normally start with a physical card game. So we're going to have a go at doing that virtually. Okay, so here's what we need to do. I would like you, please, I'm going to give you just maybe 30 seconds or a minute to go and grab a piece of paper And I would like you, please, to draw this graph. It's got 1 to 16, and it's got 3 columns, as roughly as you like. Nobody's going to see it. I'd like you to draw that graph. And I can't see, if in the chat, if you could pop in the chat when you're ready, that would be useful, so I get a quick view of where people are at. Actually, I'm not sure I can see the chat. Yeah, I can see the chat. That's amazing. So please, can you share in the chat when you're ready? Just put ready for me, and when several people have put that in the chat, I will start. Oh, blimey, you're on, you're up. Fantastic. Okay, wonderful. So now then, the reason we use this card game when we are thinking about customer connection and thinking about connection in a team is that it's so important to know your strengths as an individual, your personal management style strengths, as well as how brilliant you are functionally. And it's so useful to know other people's so that you can flex to theirs. And if we can do that right now, especially in the next 4 weeks, my job will be done. So here we go. I'm going to show you 16 cards. If I was with you, they would be physical cards and you would be looking at them. There they are. Can't do that on a background, fine. And I'm going to ask you to say yes or no when I show you these cards. Before I show you the cards, though, there's one rule. Please be honest with yourself. If you look at a card and say, oh, that statement, there's going to be statements on each card. If that card is what you'd like to be, or, oh, I wish I was like that, or I think my business wants me to be like that, don't put that. Put what you really believe you are in terms of your strengths. So let's have a go and see if it works. Here we go. Here are the first 8 cards. So if you believe that one of your strengths is that you're bold and determined, put yes where it says where you've written number 1 in the first column. So in the second column, put yes. If not, put no. And again, if I can ask a few people to just pop in their chat if they are done. The first page, done. That would be amazing as well. It might take some people slightly longer than others. Okay. Wonderful. Thank you. I'm seeing lots of done, so I'm going to move on. This is quite tricky on a webinar, I have to say, because normally I can see your faces. Okay, so, and we're going to go to the next one, which is the next 8. Same again. And same again, if you could please pop on the chat when you are done. This is very serene for me, just nice and calm. Okay, brilliant, thank you. Now then, so what I'm now going to ask you to do, and I'm going to show you, all being well if this works, is the different colour styles for the different colours. We have a model that I'm going to show you, which is a 4-style model, and its colours. You kind of guessed that from the poll question earlier. So let's have a look. And what I'd like you to do now is on question 1, it says red. Just put in the third column red. Next to your tick or cross in the third column red, and so on. The next one, unites the team around shares value, is a green energy. Generates lots of ideas, yellow. Keen eye for detail, that's blue. Can see both sides of an argument. Need that in teams, that's green. Interacts easily in social situations, yellow. Cuts to the important tasks, red. Thorough and unassuming, blue. Fabulous. Okay, and now I'm going to go to the next. Oh, one's gone wrong there. So blue, handles routine tasks really well. Always sees the best in other people. And let's see what's in this box. Expressive and persuasive. Sets a fast pace is red. Brings certainty to decision making is red. Can master intricate technical details, blue. Works to align vision, values and behavior, green. And empathetic listener. And just make sure you're okay with that. Just give you another 10 seconds. And finally, here is the final version. What I'd like you to do now, please, is just count somewhere on your paper, well, they've written the word yeses right there or not, on your paper. If you could just count up for me the number of ticks you put for each colour. So go down and count the ticks for red, for green, for yellow and blue, and give yourself a score for each of those. And when you've done that, you can do what we were going to do in the poll. I was going to see how many of each colour style we had, but before we do that, but we're not going to be able to do that because you've already done it. If you could pop for me in the chat, what is your top colour energy? And then I'm going to explain what the heck it all means. What's your top colour energy so far, according to what you've seen so far in those short statements? So if you can pop that in the chat, and then I am going to share the model. Fantastic. Yeah, some of you will have joints and some of you might have 3 as well. It's really interesting, isn't it? Because actually we've got a mixture of all the different colour energies in us, which is so important. Because one of the things I'm going to ask you to do is think about how you might use some of your lower energies with the team. Brilliant. Brilliant. Oh, somebody had 4 of each. That's very structured. Well done. Yeah, yellow, red, blue, green, yellow, blue. Very colourful. Aha, we've got a colourful group here together today. Fantastic. Right, fantastic. Equal across. Wonderful. And I know that some of you will have already seen this before. So let's have a look. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a minute. And let's have a look at different styles. Now, if you've got me on full screen, then this will work. So if you haven't, please make sure that I am on full screen, because I'm going to share some of the detail on here. Just move my screen in a little bit because I've got it on my poster so that I can work with you. Brilliant. Okay, so here's the model. Some of you will have seen it before. Just going to move my chair. Here's the model. This model is such an amazing model when you're thinking about how you're going to connect with your team. We have good day times, good day style, and we have not so good day under stress style. And if you can see that there, take a picture, and I'd be delighted to send this through to you afterwards as well if you want to make some further notes if you've never seen it before. This is such a strong and powerful tool to use when you're thinking about connecting with your teams. Good day, blue energy. You might have seen it in some of the card answers. Needs that detail, needs to be correct, is quite reserved, very high worth ethic, real analytical, needs to know that everything's right. Under stress, and you might find that you've got some of your team, or you, if you've got this energy, sometimes you might feel just a little bit indecisive and slower to trust than you normally would be, because you're in a virtual environment. Maybe a little bit detached, because normally if you're working hard in the office, you maybe head down thinking about all the detail and making sure everything's right. So sometimes you might find as well that when you're on a virtual call with your team, that just be careful that you're not too critical. But that is such a strength to have at the moment, to make sure we're not running headlong into decisions that might be wrong, because let's face it, there's a heck of a lot of change going on. Let's have a look at red. Red, very direct, decisive, results driven, and enjoys a challenge. Really great to have when we've got to make sure that we're hitting those targets, or make sure that we're making the changes that we need to change at the moment. Just be careful if you've got that high red energy, and please do share in the chat. If sometimes you might have had a bit of a short fuse. I've got some red energy. My top energy is yellow, but I've got some red energy, and sometimes I'm on a bit of a short fuse, particularly at home, and particularly I was in the first lockdown. You might find that sometimes you act too soon, or you don't listen as well as you can be a bit controlling. If that directness turns into controlling, watch that, because we don't need that. We're looking for us to be on a good day, not under stress. And if you see that in other members of your team, just think about what you might do to help them. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Next, we've got green energy. Sees both sides, really important. Diplomatic and open-minded and tenacious to make sure that everybody's included. It's a real people style, that. On a not so good day, under stress, then we might find that we start thinking about, being a bit change averse. We might think, oh, I don't think I agree with that, so I'm just going to keep quiet and withdraw. Maybe I like it, but maybe I'm not. I'm just not sure. I don't trust it, so I'm going to possibly maybe be a bit stubborn. So we're looking for diplomacy and seeing both sides, and making sure that everybody's thinking about all sides of the argument, working virtually. And then we've got sunshine yellow, which is energetic, likes change, quite what did I say, generous and involving, the ideas style. And again, most of you have got some of this in your mix, according to your very short questionnaire. However, sometimes that energy means you're all talk and no action. I'm talking to myself here. Misses deadlines sometimes miss the details. Sometimes can be a bit indiscreet, and these virtual calls, especially if you're one-to-one, can be quite psychologically safe, and just be careful that you're not giving away any trade secrets. So they are the 4 color styles, and I've put on the poster especially for today, when you're under stress as well as when you're on a good day, because as Sarah said, we are looking to be and to aspire to be fantastic bosses in our workplace, in FMCG and in wholesale. And we need to think about how we're on a good day more than a bad day when we're under stress. So just move my chair very, very close to me, this whiteboard, in order that you can see it. Fantastic. Right then, let's have a look. What I'm going to ask you to do now, and I'll leave this, I'll move to one side again in a minute. What I'm going to ask you to do now in the chat for me, please, is to share what are the strengths as a result of either your recap or understanding your colour style, maybe a little bit more now. This is the work of Carl Jung, and he is the guru of psychometric testing. And if any of you want anything, or if you'd like to try a test, or your business would like to think about it, then just get in touch with me, because it is so powerful right now. So the question I'm going to ask you in the chat, I'll write it up in a second. What strengths would you say you're really using well right now in your teams? What strengths are you using really well in your teams? And let's have a look. Just write that in. There we go. What strengths are you harnessing with your teams? Brilliant, Sarah. Resilience. Mark, thank you. Positive expectation. Green strength, Amy. Trust. Offering help. Patience, empathy, tenacity, and positivity. Fantastic green, yellow traits. Communication and empathy. High work ethic and strong communications. I can move to one slide in case you can't see them all. Fantastic. Communication and inclusion. Amazing. Please, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget that to harness our strengths is way easier than to try to work on our weaknesses. So make sure that your team in the next 4 weeks and beyond is seeing your strengths, and that you're thinking, actually, I can add value to my team there by using these strengths: empathy, communication, resilience, responsiveness. Thank you, Tammy. Accuracy, listening, energy, focus. Amazing strengths, amazing strengths. So my next question to you is, I'd like you to think of a team member who you would like to connect better with. Based on what I've written here, what we've got up on the board, based on these colour styles, good day and bad day, I'd like you to think of how you might go about connecting better with that team member. They may be, and a heck of a lot of my coaching over the summer period and has been around people feeling under stress. They may be under stress and showing some of these not so good day traits in their personal management style. Before we do that question, but I'm asking you to put that in the chat, I just want to share one of the most profound leadership principles that I learned a few years ago, and that now we train and coach people in. And it is the principle of positive regard. Positive regard says, actually, we are all here. We're all come to work to do our best. And when we go to work, we are trying hard to be everything we think we need to be to everybody. We're not intending not to do our best, and we're not intending to show these traits under stress, but sometimes they come out. So whenever you see a colleague who you are struggling to connect with for whatever reason, think to yourself, what's happening for them? My goodness, there are things happening at home for people right now, and at work, but my goodness, it is such a weird situation, and we're all at home. So think with positive regard what might be happening to them. So with that in mind, think of a team member you would like to connect better with, and answer this question. How could you don't need to say who it is, by the way, how could you adapt your approach to connect better with them? How could you adapt your approach? So I'm going to write that up and then let you have a think about that. And then I'm going to show you some examples, some ideas if you're stuck. Okay, so how could you adapt your approach? Think what colour they are, what colour style are they, and how could you adapt your approach to move a little bit towards them in the team? So think, this is a good thinker, this one. By the way, it also works with family members, especially in-laws. How can you adapt your approach to connect better with a key colleague? How can you do that? Let me share my screen. I'm going to give you some help. Here's some examples of how you might adapt. Here we go. Maybe they might nudge your thinking around how can I connect better with one individual in my team who I really want to connect better with, especially now during lockdown when there'll be things happening for people. So let's have a look in the chat. Thank you. Sarah, thank you. Making time is critical. If you've got an energy that means that you feel like you need to move on quickly, that's a trait of that red energy around being direct and get on with it and be brief and can we move on please, to make time for people. One-to-one is brilliant. If you get the opportunity to do this, then please do make some time one-to-one with people. Lisa, thank you. Ask for help with something or advice. Absolutely right. People need to feel needed right now. Some people are feeling very, very isolated. Some people are actually physically alone as of today. So think about those people as well. Thank you. Mark, who is one of our Uspire board members, here to support us. Thank you. Don't speak first. Give space to hear them first. It's a really useful thing. Actually, Aduke, who was on earlier, talks about that. In a meeting, in order to allow diversity of thinking, speak last. Heather, thank you. Oh, great. Approach someone who is red-blue to ensure that you're preempting their response and how they want it done by providing it correctly, quickly and thoroughly. Thank you, Heather. That's a really good one. It's a really good one. It's quite a deep question, this, so do continue to think about it. How, looking at these ones, looking at these reminders here on the screen, how can you make sure that not only are you growing your strengths and working with your strengths, but you're also thinking with positive regard about the people in your team? If you can do this, and you can focus on how an individual would like to be dealt with and would like to be influenced and would like to be approached in your team, it is such a joy to see teams doing this. And I've worked with so many teams on this, and it's fantastic. Show your own vulnerability. Thank you, Katie. Be open with your feelings to somebody with green and yellow energy to help them to open up. Thank you, Katie. We've had a number of stories during our coaching with some, particularly in the medical area actually, that some people feel that it is weak to show a vulnerability, or it is weak to show that you've been ill. There was one situation where one of my colleagues was coaching somebody who actually had COVID, was in hospital for 2 weeks and did not tell their boss. It was a man actually, and it's such a shame and such a tragedy that people can't do that. So make sure that's not you, eh? Tammy, thank you. Be honest with feedback and really listen and understand how you can help. Fantastic. Fantastic. Keep them coming, everybody. Keep them coming. Now, I think I'm going to, what we should have time for, if that's okay, I think I'm okay on time. Got about 5 minutes to ask some questions. I've just got one more thing I'd like to share with you, and then ask some questions. I'll finish up and then we can see whether anybody's got any questions or comments actually, or I'd love to hear your experience if you've used these colour stars in teams before, your experience of how it's helped, because that would be really, really lovely way to finish off. And I'm sure we've got people who'd love to hear your experiences. So if there are 1 or 2 people, Elliot, is it possible for us to, is it possible for them to unmute and come on board? Elliot?
I am, Anna. I don't think it's actually possible.
Oh, is it not? Oh, what a shame. Yeah, I'm going to ask Claire to share her experiences then, because I know that she's used some colour styles. So let me just finish up, and then Claire, I'd love to hear your experiences of how you've used colour styles to help you with your teams over your time as a leader.
Yeah, sure.
Hang on, just bear with me. I'm just going to go back to my final slide. Yeah, thank you. Okay, before we do that, I just wanted to finish up by saying, please, please think about in the next few weeks and beyond, and also remembering Sarah's point about being fantastic bosses of the future and of now, how you can shine. Because you can get your sparkly jumpers on, get them on. Get them on. Okay, there are two things I'd like to say to you. Firstly, if you or any of your team members or any of your leaders, you as leaders feel like you need some support with this, then it is a relatively short session that we can help you with as Uspire. And then secondly, we have an amazing session called Discover Your Impact in a Virtual World on this 20th of November for commercial leaders. If you're a commercial leader, please join our Uspire network as we share the amazing learning of a guy called Dave Thomas, who has a story which is incredible. And Dave trains CEOs in how to be excellent presenters and have an amazing virtual impact. So that is a free of charge webinar. If you would like to come to that, again, drop me an email and we can sort that out for you as well. Now, Claire, colours. Let's just finish off with a couple of minutes on colours.
Thank you, Amanda. Well, before I do that, I just want to say fantastic, as always, thank you. And I think what you've demonstrated is not just the great content, but again, the sort of banana on a how. So I think your use of technology and your background and everything is just fantastic. So it's another demonstration of how, yeah, and your sparkly jumper, very jealous. It's another demonstration of even though we can't see each other and be with each other in person, you can use technology to be more creative than most of us do. So great example of the how. In terms of colours, yeah, colours, I've been exposed to the wonderful world of colours for quite a few years, but I guess most recently it has been a real game changer for us and my team. And I think it just helps people understand sometimes if they have blockers or if they have frustrations or if they're just not connecting and communicating efficiently, why that might be. And people understanding how they can be the best that they can to unlock potential opportunities, just great communication with their team and with others has been really quite transformational. So I think particularly in these more challenging times when your ability to read people is slightly dampened because you're not necessarily in a face-to-face situation, that sort of technique of really trying to think about others and that positive regard of assuming everyone does come to work to do a great job, if you take that mindset and you try to see the world through their lens, it does create a very, very different team dynamic and a far more powerful team dynamic. So yeah, it has been hugely helpful, and I've learned that there is more than one way to load a dishwasher, bizarrely enough, because I'm convinced there was only one way, but I've learned that you can load it in a way that isn't necessarily as efficient as my way, and that's okay. So yeah, it's helped all of us on our learning journey this year. So yeah, I can only thoroughly recommend it, Amanda. It has been hugely helpful for me and the team.